game has been pretty solid, up against some big-name teams too. It's generally after the early game is when they start to struggle.
Yeah, we see both of these two challenger teams between the Papis as well here, between the other one, just not able to really convert their early game advantages with the kills into these objectives. And Papis, they're going to need to find a way to really start controlling the jungle if they want to win this one.
Really not too surprised to see Ganesha and Fafnir banned against the Papis by NRG. They're really respecting Draco Marino, and rightly so. That kid has had a good year so far.
It makes sense. There's just too much obnoxiousness between those two guys. The Dharmic pillars, you're going to have to like maneuver around them in a way that you might not necessarily want to. Then Fafnir's also one of those gods where if you don't want to play it, you might as well ban it because it's just annoying to deal with.
Bellona instantly locked in for Dimmy, more than likely in the solo lane, and straight away Papis will go for Nemesis and the Sol pick. We've said Sol's been slowly rising. You can see her SPL performances so far. 42 picks, 24 wins, so she's not doing too bad.
Not too bad at all compared to a goddess that really didn't have the best publicity in the world compared to a lot of these other hunters. But now with a nice addition to a lot of these magical damaging items, Sol has been taken off.
Well, NRG going to lock in Geb for themselves once again. And Geb's not too bad against Nemesis to help out with the shields, but individually, Geb isn't the greatest against the Nemesis for himself.
That's true. You might want to see potentially a Bracer of Undoing just to survive that initial burst coming out of the Nemesis. This has been spoken about very highly from a lot of support, specifically also out of a Milzy that really likes that relic just to survive against such aggressive junglers.
Well, Papis have done their homework here because they recognize NRG have flexed that Kurnonos towards the mid lane before and ran a couple of mages in the duo lane, specifically the Freya with Sol banned out. It does still leave Kronos open for NRG if they so choose to go that way.
I wouldn't be surprised also because Emilito really likes this god. He's made such an important impact for his team with his flexibility in that role to be able to go from the Kronos. But it's actually Papis liking both the Kronos and the Sol themselves.
Stripping that away is interesting. It's going to be a lot of magical damage from those two on the side of Papis. Squishy though, overall is what I'm going to say. They've only really got Sun Wulong, who can tank on the front lines, but after that, there's not so much they've got.
There's a ticking time bomb when you look at Sun Wukong not able to really get off the same impact. And once the 30-minute mark hits, Sun Wukong starts to diminish quite heavily in some of these team fights where a lot of these mages will start to get slightly more resilient based off of their base stats as well as maybe any sort of defensive items they pick up.
So Amaterasu and Sun Wukong, both flexible to the solo lane, but one of them is going to be up against Bellona. I'm expecting Amaterasu support.
Yeah, I'm expecting that as well because Amaterasu against Bellona in the solo lane doesn't have the prettiest of moments. Even if you do stop out her bludgeon with that silence, she will still outclear Amaterasu up until Amaterasu hits like about level 6 or 7. And there's a lot of poke potential that you can exploit onto Amaterasu before she gets her auras leveled up.
Do we see Kronos in the mid lane here, Sol in the duo lane? Because I feel whichever composition, if we actually see Papis put the the Kronos into the duo lane, I thought they would lose push powers for the reason I was mentioning it, so I'm not surprised to see Warshi playing the Sol instead.
But the stun also from the time stop from Oho Boom is going to be able to control the wave, so it's not too bad. And considering Yamit is playing this Vulcan, you can also line up the time stop to hit the turret at the same time and maybe look to take that one out.
Draco Marino starting hand of the gods this game in the support role on that Amaterasu. Seen him do this a couple of times before. It's Papis looking to secure early pressure on their own buffs to be able to get to the laning phase with a bit of experience lead.
I mean, that's one way to control objectives. A lot of these challenger teams needs to find their footing inside the league and find their identity. And this is one way that Draco Marino and Papis can look to start ramping up the early game.
Very respectful mid-game engagement there between the two of the Papis and NRG. Both teams not really finding an advantage, but NRG will get to the elementals first, which means Papis will just go for their own speed buff, both hitting level 2 relatively soon. And there you go, Adapting now going to swing over to the right-hand side for this wave, as is Dalo.
And I love what Adapting and NRG are doing to neglect their own speed and blue for a little bit. The whole point of this is to not only squeeze in this wave beforehand and forcing out Papis to deal with it, but this creates a little bit of a time gap between the two speed buffs. So now NRG can look to pick up their own speed and blue and then still have these buffs available while they look to invade Papis in about 2.5 minutes or 2 minutes worth of time.
And without actually going into Papis jungle to find out the timing of the speed buff, they can keep an eye on their blue buff timer now and know it's about a minute ahead, so a minute behind that of the speed buff for the Papis. Yamin soaking the experience with the speed there as we tune in the duo lane. Rafa and Emilito playing that Kurnonos. We'll see how this goes on in that duo lane, because it's a definitely interesting endeavor.
It's been a pretty quiet pacing from the dual lane between a lot of sets thus far, and I wouldn't be surprised, considering that Raptor is playing this gap, to see more of a slow start as well coming out of NRG, looking to poke out Warchi, though already less than half health.
Good work onto Warchi, but he does have a couple of health potions available and some nice sustain in his kit too. Not only that, Amaterasu in tow will help out a little bit on top of that.
And that's the problem with putting any hunter with Amaterasu. You're looking to play super hyper aggressive to benefit you in the trading of the in-hands. Obviously, Amaterasu will deal more in-hand damage than a Geb, but Sol can't really look to box this early on. A magical hunter needs items to really deal with a physical one.
And that's the difference, I guess, with these sort of magical hunters to an extent. They need those items to really start performing to the best of their ability. Yamin back in the mid lane, though, continuing to work towards what more than likely could be a Doom Orb here. Rush starting off from him. His adapting will gank the solo lane early on, and Creed, not level 5 yet, just gets punished for being in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Beautiful pull out of adapting there. Probably should have seen Creed go into the Ox form to prevent that initial pull to stop him from getting away, but either way, that Typhoon would have probably more than likely secured the kill at the end of the day. Great rotation out of adapting, hit a level 5, and taking advantage of a Sun Wukong that hasn't have that somersault cult available.
Well, we didn't look towards the itemization coming out from the duo lane so far this game, but both the supports and hunters in the duo lane started off with Bumba's Mask here. It shows the state of the duo lane now as Warchi just going to get hit by that wild hunt. Body blocks from Drake and Marino will keep him alive. But these Bumba's Mask, totally, this is all about getting the early clear without losing any sort of health and starting in the jungle.
Smite's meta has developed to a point where a lot of teams are looking to get to the lane quickly, as whether you're looking at season 4, 3, 2, whatever the case is. A lot of teams will go for a hog back in the day, and they're trying to clear the red, clear the purple, or clear the boars back in the day, trying to get to that lane and get that first wave. And by getting Bumba's Mask here for both your supports and Hunter, you're looking to really dictate that early jungle pacing.
Yamin's going to get the back harpies here as he continues to farm up. You saw quickly that adapting returned to base, get his full warrior tabby online for himself after getting that first kill over to Dimmy in that solo lane. It does give Dimmy a nice little advantage there, but I do like what Creed did in response on the Sun Wukong. He dies early. Instead of investing into leveling up his boots further, he goes for the Vanguard, expecting to potentially see more pressure in this solo lane.
The difference was that he didn't have enough gold to finish off the boots, but he did have enough to probably to get off this Mark of the Vanguard, and he decided, like, okay, do I go for Mark of the Vanguard, I think, defensively, or do I go for a tier 2 boots, which is literally going to do next to nothing anyway for me in terms of surviving or clearing the wave. I'm only getting 10 additional physical power for those tier 2 boots, and that barely helps with the scaling at this stage.
Well, the Papis are only 1,000 gold as it stands down at the moment. Most of that comes from the First Blood and the surrounding artifacts that got taken against them. Experience is still relatively even, which is an important thing for the Papis to stay even keel at this stage.
Speed buffs have been taken by both of these teams. Neither of them really electing to go for an invade here. I was really surprised and expecting NRG to go for such an aggressive option, but they've been very surgical about their approach, about how they want to take some of these engagements, just making more of the guaranteed plays happen on their side of the field.
Draco and Rafa both going to exchange ultimates, but Draco gets away with it better. However, Adapting's follow-up was beautiful. That's a world-class jungler right there. Commits back, knocks up 3 members, and picks up a kill. And his Papis on the run.
Great shield to also prevent the stun. It's Dalo taking a lot of damage from Emilito's Wild Hunt. The speed buff, though, from this Nemesis should keep him alive, but you can't outrun a Susanoo that has a speed buff.
And even if he did, Rafa was closing the gap on the escape route as well, just in case with the rollout. He would be able to knock up and slow him down a little bit more. Energy, 3 kills.
And the problem also was that only tier 2 boots at the time for Dalo, now picking up boots 3 after his death and adapting all over the place. This is the lead that you give the world-class jungler that he will just run away with. Already a 2-level lead, looking to invade these back harpies. Has respawned, he was backing, cancels his back to steal those ones away.
Might as well, but Papis looking to commit to Gold Fury here, recognizing there's maybe a small window for them to do this. Yamin's ultimate is on cooldown, and they do have a Hand of the Gods from Draco Marino, but Draco has to get in range to do it, but he's gonna die before he can get the hog off. Now Gold Fury goes towards Papis. It was stripped away. I'm not sure who got that. I believe it may have been Ojo Boom just at the end, as NRG looked to secure it for themselves.
They still got it at the end of the day, but losing 2 members gives enough of a farming timing window for NRG to really start pushing these waves under the towers, so it's going to deny a lot of important gold and experience here, as Emilito is going to deny these 2 archers, and that doesn't seem like much here, but at the end of the day, that does add up.
Well, look at the worth between the two junglers right now. 4,600 gold plus for adapting in the jungle, whereas Dalo on the Nemesis, he's sat at 3.8k. 800 gold is nothing to scoff at the moment. You can see the itemization by the two will be differing because of this.
It's looking like it as well, going for what looks to be a shifter shield here, coming out of adapting, really wanting to get that physical power here, and for good reason. Susanoo scales really well with his abilities, especially that Storm Kata.
Rafa in the mid lane just farming up with Yamin. Is Creed going to take on Dimmy in the solo lane? And it could be a little bit of pressure onto Dimmy here with now Dalo rotating in. But Dimmy's not really panicking. He's still boxing out, wants to hold on to that Eagles rally, and does so well enough. Does he get quite a bit of poke, however? Yamin
and adapting were around the corner, which is why Dimmy was so confident in taking that 1v2 skirmish. Dropping a ward, there is Creed right beneath his blue buff, but adapting and Yamin are full health, and Dalo isn't.
Adapting doesn't care about anything right now, totally, with the players playing. You can see that turret from Yamin just going to keep Creed at bay long enough for NRG to strip away the blue buff. Amelito on the left won't be able to steal away Warchi's purple, but he will go hunting in the jungle for a little bit more, as Rafa in mid is being engaged on yet again, but the Cataclysm time was beautiful this time round. Now with Amelito rotating around the back, Dalo may have seen him, but the balls are out. The ultimate from Yamin is good. Adapting picks up the kill as Dalo is forced out.
Dalo takes a lot of damage from that ultimate out of Yamin, and yet again, NRG just 5-man collapsing in mid, recognizing when the pressure is happening from Papis. NRG, not only are they offensively able to really force things on their battlefield, but they can read the opposition from a mile away and then just make that counter rotation work every time.
This is clean totally from NRG, and that's not something we've been able to say for quite a while in the SPL. And obviously the aura against the Papis though, so they're expected to come into this and win. But NRG looking very solid in this game so far.
And even having a Bracer of Undoing, Rafa recognizes that he will be the primary focus fire every now and then, because Geb, without these defensive items here, only having this Mark of the Vanguard for now, going for Traveler Shoes, is a pretty easy target.
Ojo Boom may go boom in a second, but he won't get away from the ultimate. He'll rewind all the way back towards Yamin and have to continue running as the Eagles rally from Dimmy was oh so close. If only Yamin had hit that meatball.
Just close, but no cigar for Dimmy, but the option was there, and I like the fact that he even attempted it. The fact that Cronus didn't have his ultimate, Beads was even used to prevent the Eagles rally stun in the first place, so a great use of those defensive relics. Papis, they're struggling a little bit. They're down 0-6. They're down about 1,800 gold here, but that Gold Fury has kept them still in the game.
And I think the one thing they've done here is what you saw from NRG in picks and bans was focus Draco Marino in that support role, banning his Ganesh, banning the chance for him to get Fafnir. But not only that, they banned Terror too, which put him towards his Amaterasu pick, where he's currently 0-3. He's still trying to make the things that he does do well for his team in terms of engagement, set up potential, but he's just not working out the same way.
I don't mind the Amaterasu pick, but I do mind that it's paired up with the Soul. I would like to see a more aggressive early game hunter to really make this Amaterasu pick more valuable, really utilize that ultimate offensively to be able to get off some of these easy picks.
What kind of support would you like to see then, especially with Terra, Fafnir and Ganesh banned?
Maybe you could even go on her. No, I mean, like, I like the Amaterasu support.
Oh, you just don't like the Soul with
I don't like the Soul with the Amaterasu.
Could you switch to support instead? Hang on a second. Dalo will get his own speed buff, adapting. I'm happy about that for sure. He's going to place a very deep ward at the back Harpies. Look at the amount of vision and how deep these wards are from NRG. This is a sort of evolution of NRG, this split, where they're starting to actually show where their wall placements will be and how much of the map they're trying to control early on.
Rafa trying to zone out. Oh, boom, right around the corner. Vulcan ultimate is going to not connect because the Cataclysm was off the mark as well.
Adapting just missed that pull by half a second. If it was a little bit earlier, I think we would have seen Ojo Boom fall down, but Dimmy's taking a lot more damage than he wants to. He has to disengage. Dalo trying to swing around the back, but good work there from Adapting, and now Emelito joins the fray.
Trying to get off the Wild Hunt and will do so. Oh, boom goes boom indeed, and Adapting, pulling out Draco Marino, but it's actually not enough to really confirm the kill, forcing Dalo out of the action here, but no rotation from Warchi, and he's going to be able to really get this tier 1 tower on the left-hand side.
Knowing there's no rotation, NRG looking to commit to the tier 1 tower in mid lane. 4 members strong, and with Draco Marino not having his ultimate available, there's not a whole lot he can do. Creed just wants his blue, and Dimmy will not be able to strip it away this time. Luckily enough, there was just enough mana to get away.
But he's able to poke out Creed long enough to force him back into base and use that teleport. And with a small difference of teleport window between probably 30 seconds here, that could be enough for NRG to really start rotating on left. If Dimmy wanted to, he could ignore this next wave if Creed teleports towards right.
I think the next evolution now for Papis is to keep an eye on the hunters that they're up against, because I do see them out rotate Warchi a little bit longer. I understand Warchi seems to be one of these that likes to farm in the early mid game, then make his rotations and make an impact in the team fights, but you've got to keep an eye on your opposition hunter, because if you don't, it becomes a 4v5 very, very quickly.
I mean, there's just a lot of vision here from both teams. Look at NRG's vision all across the map. Not only do they have like 6 wards inside the jungle at Papis, but even one inside the middle of the lane, as well as Papis just all over the place.
These cursed anks starting to come through even more and more now, maybe to try and answer back some of the braces or natural sustaining kits. And you can see Creed has actually picked that up for his team here. We'll see how this works out for them though, with NRG starting to set up around the goal view for the second time. First one they could have taken for themselves, but if it wasn't for Oh Boom, who caused so many problems, and stole it away.
Adapting, doing a decent job here, poking out. Dalo eats a little bit in return out of Oh Boom, but this is not comparatively enough at the same level. Reinforced Greaves and Gauntlet of Thieves really not enough to keep this support at a healthy level.
Not gonna lie though, Toli, Papis only being 2,000 gold down is not bad considering they've lost 7 lives so far in this game.
Absolutely. You would expect Papis to be even further behind, but the goal view did go the way of the Papis after they started it and then sacrificing Draco Marino. But the second one is going to really dictate which team is going to start swinging things in their favor.
Biggest lead in the game right now is Adapting up against Dalo. It's been a battle of the junglers so far today. Adapting currently with a 2-level lead, looking to potentially capitalize further on that up against Dalo, who he's waiting for to start up this speed, and he knows exactly where he is. Meanwhile, Papis doing the gold.
Oh, he's really waiting for that slice and dice. The Stormkata will be confirming that speed, but great patience out of Adapting, and Emilito forced to go into both defensive relics.
And a nice ultimate out of Yamin will hit Warchi and Draco Marino. Adapting now swinging around the back, and before he even gets there, Oh Boom is dead before he got to use the rewind. Warchi wishes he had a rewind right now out of that fight, but instead he gets a trip back to the fountain, and NRG can look for the Gold Fury.
NRG are just all over the place. Adapting had enough time to invade the speed buff and still got back into the Gold Fury fight.
And meanwhile, Dalo couldn't do much about it. Without the speed, he couldn't get over there in time. They're looking to push a tier 1 tower here, though. Our Papis trying to answer something back with their man advantage over here. And Dimmy's just hung around longer than he wanted to. Double dash will be enough for Dalo to catch up and catch that Eagles rally. Papis will not get the tier 1 tower, however, as the minions run out.
The sprint pot from Dimmy was just a little too early. Should have used it after all the slows to cleanse it, because you could still get slowed after the fact. Great use of recognition from Papis just to exploit NRG's weak side of the Soul Link because of how heavily they overcommitted on the left.
Typical Dimmy, man, always feeding.
I mean, he likes to feed.
Always feeding. It was a clean game up until then from NRG. And then Dimmy gets 4v1. I'm not surprised, that always happens.
There's always a sacrificial lamb if you look at every single team. And Dimmy even puts himself in a position where he'll sacrifice a matchup in the Soul Lane to make sure his team has winning ones elsewhere, especially to make those important impacts in the mid-game team fights.
Paul Demon start up yet again as Adapting on zone duty, happy to fight anybody who walks up to him. Teleporting from Dimmy to the backside after his death will put some pressure onto Creed, and that'll keep everybody and Papis at bay for NRG just to take a Pole Demon for free.
Surprising to see Dimmy with this hardware amulet, something that we really haven't seen in a while, but it makes it easier for Rafford to not have to invest into all 3 aura items for himself, to go for more of a selfish build. So that's what you want to coordinate as a team between your Soul Laner and your supporters. Like, hey, are you going to get this aura item? No? I guess I will.
Do you reckon we see more of that coming out from solo lanes now, where they'll start to pick up some of these auras? Because the aura themselves, in the latest patch coming through too, you'll see Sovereignty and Thebes take a bit of a hit to the aura, but for the wearer, it's not all doom and gloom. Could we see some solo lanes go for that instead of supports now?
We've also seen a lot of it started from Cyclone Spin, where he's taking it kind of in a selfish approach, because it still gives you MP5 to be able to spam away in that soul lane. So whether or not you get the blue buff, if you have this item, you're able to really just stay there as long as you want if you have that self-sustain, such as Bologna does.
Yeah, at least with the magical protection, I guess you're right there, Tolly, because sometimes you won't necessarily need a Pestilence up against some teams. Nice pull onto Warchi there, uses it to separate nicely. Draco Marino gets a good stun off, but Rafa counters it out straight away again with a Cataclysm. Dalo still trying to commit for a second, but I think the call from Papis is disengaged.
But it's engaging for Adapting here. He finds 3 on the knockup, even Warchi on the back end of it. Rafa gonna find the blink and the knockup. Supernova, not enough to save Oh Boom.
No, not at all. 10-1 now as Adapting gets another kill for himself. Rafa is now James Bond for the time being, but it could change relatively soon as Draco Marino's caught between a rock and a hard place, and the hard place is his own tier 1 tower.
The Wild Hunt is not going to connect, and it's Emilito taking the tower, but it doesn't really matter because that Geb shield will save his Hunter's life. Draco Marino's going to fall, and so will this tier 1 tower on the left once the minions enter the radius.
Totally, it's getting out of hand now. It's only 5k, but it's a decent 5k from NRG. This lead had just been pulled from pillar to post to Papis, and they can't really respond. Have NRG overstayed their welcome?
It looks like it. It's going to be the shield coming out of Dalo and the shield coming out of Raffer, keeping his Hunter alive yet again. That meatball just chunking Warchi.
And that's because he's got a full stack Doom Orb and the damage from the penetration coming out too, which is causing him so many problems.
It's just such a nice build coming out of Yaman with how much space safety he has, considering Adapting's always going in. Dimmy's going to sacrifice himself, no problem, anytime that he needs to, and then Raffer's shields will easily keep Yaman alive as necessary. And with all this protection on this Vulcan being left unchecked, he doesn't have that much player damage if you're looking at the scoreboard, but as the game progresses, I wouldn't be surprised if he starts getting closer and closer to Adapting.
It's funny we can call this classic Adapting, because we've seen Adapting so many times, and this is probably his most solid performance of the year so far, I'd say, since the World Championships. Currently 4 levels now over his opposition, and look at the damage charts. That's the key here. 13,000 against basically 8,000 from Creed. He is 5k clear of the closest opposition easy.
I mean, remember how much I was harping about Cisno last set for Ice Baby?
Yeah.
Look at what Adapting's been able to do with this god in just 18 minutes worth of play.
I hate Susano.
I
always say I don't normally criticize gods or anything like that, but I just hate this.
It's not even like he's an obnoxious god. It's just in the right hands, it's really difficult to do anything against.
Eagles rally from Dimmy, and that's going to set up the piggy time for Dalo. Creed will get to the sky in time, though, to avoid it, as Dalo still being committed on by Adapting. The knock-up hit Creed, though, as he landed, and that makes a Cataclysm go off too. The juggle of damage is good from Emilito to pick up Creed, who was oh so close from away. Baby, you're a firework, and it's only going to hit Draco Marino.
Nice job from Moho Boom retreating, but it's Dimmy going to teleport on the left-hand side, trying to stop the split push from Warch. He's going to be able to clear out the wave, but it's not enough. Tier 2 on the left does fall.
And now Dimmy versus Warchi.
No,
Disarmed
Dimmy,
this Warchi right now. Dimmy does not have his ultimate available, has to avoid the ult out of Warchi, and does that rightfully so. Minion's going to slow down Warchi for a second, but all the time, Dimmy's just buying an opportunity for NRG to do the fire, where Draco Marino is lurking, and he has a hand of the gods.
And he has his ultimate available as well, taking a lot of damage, though, in return. He's forced to go in the ultimate to survive against Adapting.
Trying to commit his Draco. If he can get to this fire giant, it could give a chance for Papis to get back in, but he's body blocked by Raffer, and Adapting will claim the kill. Papis now only get 1 and lose the fire giant too.
Great job from NRG, just managing to balance out the DPS on the fire giant versus stopping Draco Marino from stealing it away from them, and NRG are looking like they are still the world-class team that everyone knows them to be.
But they look world-class against Papis, and that's not giving any discredit towards the Papis here, Toli. They're a new team in the Pro League trying to find their feet. Is this good enough for NRG to see them potentially go on towards the LAN and have better performances than we saw recently?
This could be a confidence booster that NRG need to, if they win this set cleanly, 2-0, and then going into the next week 5 here, then they should be able to easily clinch their spot into Valencia. Not only that, the momentum that they will have from that performance to the LAN phase, we know NRG is to be these LANimals every now and then. Now, they did have a slip-up in the last spring split LAN, but that might be what they needed to be able to get back into it as we're approaching Valencia and the fall split.
Well, NRG will get their portal demon for themselves as Papis answer back with a tier 1 tower on the right hand side to keep that lane nice and even. And on the left hand side, you can see Emilito's trying to undo all the hard work Warchi has been putting into this lane by evening up the towers over here. He should definitely get this tier 1 and can start pressuring the tier 2 if he so chooses.
Emilito is not going to be leaving this lane anytime soon. Castus Curses.
See, that's always be safe because you never know. And I think he might commit for it if he doesn't realize the rotation coming, but he has an idea that maybe.
I thought NRG were going to commit heavily on towards mid or the soul lane, which would allow Emilito to look for the 1v1 against Warchi, not really wanting to push his luck, but will try to get away with his red buff.
So if Papis do win a team fight here, if they get a decent team fight, Toli, how many team fights do they need to get back into this now? Because this lead is starting to grow further and further at 21 minutes, and the experience difference, it's more than one team fight,
Definitely
right?
More than one. I would say at least 3 from Papis to be able to slowly build their lead. But it also depends on what they get from one team fight. Because if they win one team team fight and they get all the towers from NRG, then maybe they would only need 2 team fights after that point to be able to really start bringing the game back.
Well, NRG are starting to group up down this left-hand side, recognizing the Fire Giant is around their waist for another minute and a half easy time. Tier 2 tower does fall, and with the rollout from Rafa being charged, it looks like they may look for this Phoenix. Meanwhile, 4 members of Papis are on the right-hand side of the map right now. I'm not exactly sure quite why, as NRG are going to be able to start chipping away the Phoenix for free.
Already at half health, and the poke onto Warchi yet again from 1 meatball. Draco Marino eating plenty of damage as well from the backfire, and Yamin, like I said,
like a bat out of hell in terms of speed at least. Not actually playing the cameras just yet, but the wards down from Papis will slow him for a second. 5 members still grouped, no Cataclysm this time around for Rafa, but everyone else is all on, energies available, and that's what you see used right there.
Warchi trying to retreat away from Demi. Draco Marino stunning out a few, forced to retreat underneath, but it's going to be Sun Wukong diving the backline. Warchi is going to be the first victim, and yet again, the Phoenix still standing.
And adapting, nobody keeping check on him whatsoever. He is the danger man in this game at 9 kills for himself so far. He's still investing more. The Aegis used by Ojo Boom there, I believe, to avoid the damage coming out from the Vulcan ultimate, but Demi's tanking the Phoenix way too long and has to fall back. In the end, Papis put up a sterling performance on defense here that keeps him in this game for now.
They survive with the left side Phoenix, but Warchi can't say the same about himself and still relying on some of the lifesteal here. Emilito going into that spring season to be able to get that lifesteal and relying on that Fire Giant sustain. Finally, NRG will heavily commit towards this Phoenix, taking full benefit of their Fire Giant as it's about to fizzle away.
Yeah, the Fire Giant will fall off, but I think NRG can get a tier 2 in mid. Rafa going to tank it up for his team, who took the scenic route to get towards here, but Rafa with the shields and at level 15 will be fine for the time being. Papis are back to defend, however, with no minions, NRG have to give up the goose.
They're respecting the potential rotation here. Not only that, hey, adapting. He saw a speed buff.
Of course he did. He's a jungler. It's like they've got a sixth sense about speed buffs.
Speed buff,
I mean, Tony, you're a solo lane for the most part, right? You have a sixth sense about when a blue buff's available, right?
Sure.
I smell a blue buff spawn.
Sure.
And you go off and do it, right?
After like about the 10-minute mark, that just like goes away though.
What if you started taking the speed buffs? If you've noticed, I've got a thing this year where I want people to start taking jungler speed buffs. Regularly.
That is an important thing. Like if you can ever strip away speed or the red towards the later stages of the game, whether or not it's going to benefit yourself, but you're taking away from your opposition, that's how you can start getting that slight edge in a team
totally.
fight.
I'm talking about taking your own jungler speed. Give it to the solo laner. Give it to the support. Give it to the hunter. Anyone but jungler. We should just tilt junglers now.
How about Season 5, we just take away speed
buffs?
Oh,
we add 5 speed buffs. Ojo Boom needs 5 speed buffs to get away from that gank, as Rafa just turned up and got the kill for himself thanks to Dimmy and Adapting's work. And now the monkey could be the next one on the list for a bit of a tale of a terrible time.
Creed.
Forced to use the ult early on.
Creed in an awkward position. They're forced to go into that cloud very early on. No Fire Giant on the side of NRG. They're still wanting to get off more pressure, and they're doing a good job. They're killing Ojo Boom. They're able to get out that defensive ultimate out of Creed, and now this is going to be so much easier for them to secure this late game objective.
Papis are just existing as it stands in this game now. I don't see them having another way back into this one. NRG are not making any real mistakes to allow them to, and when Papis have had an opportunity, they've been too far behind or just not in the right position to do so.
Oh no, Draco Marino, he saw this one before, forced to go into the ultimate, but it's adapting with speed buff,
but it's
with Susanoo. That's true.
But it's Amaterasu.
That is true. That movement speed from the aura is quite a bit to be able to get away.
Final tier 2 on the right-hand side is about to be dropped down. There's one remaining in mid lane that Rafa's just hanging around at. But he's got no minions, so he can't do it alone. The rest of NRG were thinking about the Phoenix for a second, but I think the call from NRG has been, let's just siege up mid, and that's what they're going to do.
So patient is NRG. They can honestly just go down any lane that they really want to without any minions. Finally, this is what they will do once everybody gets the buffs that they really want to, but still playing it really safe, because guess what? Guess what's on the mini-map?
Speed buff?
Speed buff's up.
Which one would Adapting go to first? Portal Demon or Speed Buff?
He's going to get the Portal Demon low a little bit, let Yamin finish it off while he goes for Speed Buff.
Okay, let's find out.
Okay, no. I thought he was going to really try to min-max.
See, this is TGG. Casting Curse. It really exists. Now he's going to go for his speed. Eventually. Left-hand side, Gold Fury also goes the way of NRG Esports, and this one for me is done totally because Papis just haven't done anything.
That reminds me like of a National Geographic Channel commentator where he's like, look as the gazelle sips from the fountain.
See the adapting world-class jungler. 21,000 player damage. Fire Giant belt and speed buff wrapped around his waist. The opportunity for his prey, the Spanish Papis, is in his size. I
can't. I
could cast a whole game like that.
We actually need to do that for like an April Fool's or something like that.
Speed buff once again taken by the evil adapting.
No, it's actually
Yaman,
on
however,
Yaman instead.
will steal it away, giving it over to his sister mid laner.
Take that, adapting.
All right, your little English accent's not too bad, actually. Do it again, that's pretty good. Can you do it again?
NRG now approaching towards the right side lane.
No, you sound like someone from South Park.
What?
I swear you sound like someone
Okay,
from South
I need to
Park
work on that a little bit more.
17 to 1, approaching 27 minutes now, and keep an eye on Rafa. He's got Blinking Cataclysm. He won't be scared of engaging. Neither will Dimmy with the Eagles Rally if a couple of members Papis group up together.
Oh.
And there's a big Cataclysm right now.
Yeah, Dimmy's going to go in the backline as well with that Eagles Rally over the top. Yeah, man!
Boom!
Finding oh boom!
Creed goes down 2. Next on the list is War Chief, followed quickly by Draco Marino. And last but certainly not least, it's Dalo.
And that's going to be the first game for NRG.